Okay, now we're going to do the advanced studies of the median nerve. So we're going to start with the median radial comparison. So this is a median radial comparison. So we're going to be recording off of the thumb because both the median nerve is innervated on the this side by the median nerve. The thumb is innervated this side by the median nerve, and this side by the radial nerve. So we're going to place our electrode, or our temperature probe on the hand. So we get a nice good skin temperature there. We're going to be using the ring electrodes again. So anytime we're using a digit, we need to use the ring electrodes to give us contact with both ends of the digit. So we're going to place our black recording electrode on the proximal part of the thumb and our red ring electrode on the distal part of the thumb. Okay, take a little bit of gel. Place a little bit of gel along the rings, like that there. Now we take our ground electrode, and we're going to plug our ground electrode into the green port on the channel and put the ground in there. Okay, got a nice flat baseline. So now we're going to stimulate 10 centimeters from the median nerve from the active electrode to the median nerve, and 10 centimeters from the black electrode to the radial nerve. So we're going to compare the speeds of the same distance. So there's 10 centimeters in between the two tendons of the wrist. This is a sensory nerve, so we don't need to use that much intensity. So there's my negative stimulating pole right at the 10 centimeter mark. Very low stim intensity. And there's our nice response. So we're getting a nice response. It's reproducible, getting a nice clean response, nice reproducible waveform, so we can store that response there. Now we take 10 centimeters and measure to the radial nerve. So 10 centimeters right along the base of the wrist right there. Again, our negative stimulating probe goes right at the 10 centimeter mark, and we stimulate. This one may need a little bit more current. The nerve's a little bit smaller here, so we need to play around, find that it responds a little bit. Maybe add a little bit of gel to the stimulator probes. And we remeasure 10 centimeters. Right there. 10 centimeters to the radial nerve. And that response is kind of reproducible. It's a little small, but not looking for amplitude too much. I can change my gain and you can see it better, how we can see that response is reproducible in the same location. So that means that it's the correct nerve response because I'm getting the same thing every time. So that is the median radial, and we store that, and that is the median radial sensory comparison. Now another advanced study for the median nerve is going to be doing an orthodromic study of the sensory nerve. So every sensory study we've done so far has been antidromic. Now we're going to do an orthodromic study of the median and ulnar nerves. This is also a sensory study, but we're going to be stimulating in the palm and recording on the wrist. So we don't need to use these ring electrodes. So we can take these ring electrodes out of the port, out of the amplifier, and go back to use our standard tab electrodes. Place this one, the black in the black. Place the red in the red. Select the screen, median orthodromic. So we're going to do median orthodromic, and we're going to stimulate in the palm. So you notice the way the stim site sets up here, it has digit 3 and palm. We're going to stimulate in the palm at a distance of 8 centimeters. So from the palm to the wrist is going to be a distance of 8 centimeters. So we're going to make this palm to wrist, and that is 8 centimeters. Okay, so we're going to take the electrodes, and we're going to place the black recording electrode right on top of the median nerve. So the black recording electrode is right on top of the median nerve, and the reference is proximal because we're going orthodromic, so we're going the way the nerve normally functions. So there's the black recording electrode, and there's the red reference electrode. We're going to take our tape measure, and let's move this out of the way. So we move the temperature out of the way, but we still need it because we need to know what the skin temperature is. So now we're going to take our tape measure and measure from the black recording electrode a distance of 8 centimeters. So there's 8 centimeters. We're going to stimulate right there. There's our negative stimulating probe right at that 8 centimeter mark. It's a sensory study, but we got to go through a little bit thicker skin, so we're going to have to push a little bit harder with the stimulator probe. And there's a nice response. It's a nice response. I can do it again. It's reproducible. It's reproducible, and I can get the same response every time. So that gives me the palm latency of 1.8 milliseconds and velocity of 44 from palm to wrist. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do the ulnar nerve. So now I'm just going to move these electrodes over to where the ulnar nerve is at the wrist and measure 8 centimeters and stimulate the ulnar nerve in the palm. So there's the ulnar, there's 8 centimeters right at the ulnar nerve. There's our negative stimulating probe right at that 8 centimeter mark. Again, you have to select palm because you don't want to stimulate from digit 5, you want to stimulate from palm. And here it goes, palm to wrist, 8 centimeters, that's good. So I'm going to stimulate, again, a little low intensity level. And this one's not going to look as nice. It's not as big as a nerve here, but we're not really looking at the amplitude so much as we're looking at the latency. So there's that waveform. It's being reproducible. I'm getting the same waveform every time. So that is a reproducible response. So I can store that. Press the store button. If I wanted to change the gain, I can change it to see it a little bit better. Just move the onset marker over to where the waveform leaves the baseline. And again, I would now compare this palmar latency of 1.8 milliseconds of the ulnar nerve to the palmar latency of the median nerve, which is also 1.8 seconds. So you'd have to do a manual calculation when you look at and review all the data to compare to see if there's a difference between the two of those. So that is the median ulnar sensory orthodromic stimulation. The next one we'll do, and the last one for carpal tunnel, is the median ulnar motor comparison. So the median ulnar motor comparison, we're going to place the recording electrode on in between the first and second metacarpal, because right here is the second lumbrical, first lumbrical and second interossei. So we're going to place that here, and we're going to place the recording reference electrode on the middle finger. So I'm going to place that there, and now we're going to measure a distance of 10 centimeters. So we're going to measure from the black electrode 10 centimeters down to the median nerve. So from the black electrode, measure 10 centimeters down to the median nerve. There's my negative recording electrode. It's a motor study, so you're going to start a little bit higher. And this waveform is not going to look as nice because it's a smaller muscle. But you still want to max it out, so increase the intensity. Didn't get any bigger, so we've maxed it out. We've got super maximal stimulation. So there is the recording. So I store that. Now I measure 10 centimeters to the ulnar nerve. So I measure 10 centimeters from the black electrode to the ulnar nerve, which is right there. 10 centimeters to ulnar nerve, leave it the same intensity, and there's the waveform there. I can increase a little bit, but it's not going to matter too much, and it stayed the same. So that waveform stayed the same. I can store that. I've got a maximal intensity, and now I can compare the latencies. I compare the latencies of the onsets, 3.4 for the median and 3.1 for the ulnar. Anything more than 0.5 is considered abnormal, and we're well below that, we're 0.3. So that is a normal recording, what we'd expect to see on a non-impaired patient. So that is the median ulnar motor comparison. Again, also useful, very useful for carpal tunnel syndrome. Then finally, we're going to do the anterior interosseous comparison. So now we need to move our ground electrode, because the muscle we're going to record from is the pronator quadratus. And the pronator quadratus is deep down in this area over here. So we're actually going to place our black recording electrode in where the pronator quadratus would be. So we place our black recording electrode there on the pronator quadratus, and the reference electrode can be placed on the knuckle of the IP. So we're going to place it on the MCP, place it right there. The ground can be on the shaft of the radius between the stimulating and the recording. So there's our ground electrode. And our stimulation site is going to be at the same stimulation site for the median nerve at the elbow, because we're measuring the speed going to here. So we're going to measure the speed and the amplitude from stimulation at the elbow. So it's a motor study. So we're going to come in, and there's our stimulation site for the median nerve at the elbow. And it's a motor study, so we're going to start a little bit higher. And here we go. And there's a nice response right there. Increase the intensity, see if it gets any bigger. Got a little bit bigger. We'll go one more time. And it stayed the same. It stayed the same. We can store that. And this one we would do on a patient, we would do a left to right comparison, because this one we're really looking for a change in amplitude. We're looking for a change in amplitude. The latency isn't really a factor because the forearm length is going to be different from every person. The forearm length for him, we can put it in if we need to, was from here, it was 27. So that's 27 centimeters. 27 centimeters. And that was from the pronator quadratus to the elbow, and it again doesn't give us a velocity because it's only one stimulation site. So again, this is the anterior interosseous nerve, and we would do this in a side-to-side comparison, mainly looking for differences in amplitude. So those are the special tests for the median motor and sensory nerves.